Unfriended Dark Web is the sequel to the first film, which was told entirely from the perspective of someone's laptop. A very clever storytelling device that I was actually very impressed with. I understand that when you sit down at a blank page and you're trying to craft a story, the idea of creating one that takes place entirely from that perspective, that's kind of clever and very ingenious. The film had a few issues, but overall I was impressed with that movie. And so I was curious to see if they could sustain this for a second film. And this film is about someone who has a laptop that he supposedly finds, but we later learn there's more to it. And the previous owner of the laptop would really like it back because he's involved in some very shady dealings. And so that seeps into a Skype conversation this kid is having with some other people, his friends. And now we have a thriller horror movie told from the perspective of a computer once again. This film, for me, didn't really work as well as the first, for a few things. The first film had a very tragic and rather frightening backstory due to this character Laura Barnes, who was haunting them for some really terrible things they did. And even though the film had some cheesy aspects to it, it felt slightly believable. I mean, beyond the ghost stuff, it felt like, okay, I can kind of see what they're going for and the message they're trying to send. This film kind of ditches the supernatural element and embraces more of a crime element. And as the plot began to unfold, it required so much suspension of disbelief that it just kind of lost credibility for me after a while, and I started laughing kind of unexpectedly sometimes. That's not to say that the craft here is awful. It's not to say that any of the actors in particular are awful, or the storytelling necessarily. It's just that I know how technology works, and for the most part, it feels like you're looking at a real computer screen, except the person is like insanely fast at everything, typing, clicking. He never like mistakenly opens another app or does something by accident. He rarely ever has spelling errors, and he's just perfect at everything on the computer. But sometimes I'll look in the bottom of the screen, and when you're not supposed to be looking at someone else's webcam, like he's sort of hid it behind other windows, I could see that their webcams were suddenly moving at like 1 frame a second for no reason. And I'm like, that's an easy fix. You could have done that super easily, but they left it in. And there's aspects like that in the film that do feel a little bit lazy to me. But that's not like a film killing thing. That's kind of just like an electronic goof that isn't really necessarily explained. They never say like why his webcam might be glitching or anything, especially since the character's webcam that does that is this high-tech genius who has like servers and all types of things behind him, and you understand that he's really good with computers. It's really just the believability of what unfolds in regards to the villain or villains in this film, because so much is asked of us as an audience to accept that after a while, I just couldn't accept it anymore. And the scares I found were particularly weak. There's a few jump scares that just don't work at all. There's one character that kind of jumps up in his seat and holds out his fist when he hears a sound. And I can't confirm this because I've only seen it once and I couldn't rewind it, but it seemed like they used the exact same image of him holding his fist when he hears a sound twice. Could be wrong. Maybe he perfectly mimicked the exact same motion, but I would say for the first 20 minutes or so, I was actually kind of interested. There's a unique relationship in the film. The lead character is trying to communicate with his girlfriend, who they're at odds because she's deaf and they have a hard time talking over Skype. And he's trying to learn American Sign Language, but he kind of sucks at it. So he tries to create an app that lets him sign and to like show her that he's really trying. And she's not really happy about that because it lets her understand him, but he still can't understand her. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea for a film told entirely from the perspective of a laptop, because that would be a really difficult thing. And it's things like that that impress me about the film and the writing of the film, and I like that. But as soon as the whole plot unfolds, the scares basically went away, and I just stopped caring, really. The finding of this unknown folder in his computer I thought was pretty cool. But then the ending in particular, which I won't get into, it just left me so cold, and that could have been the intent. I'm assuming it was, but it wasn't like, wow, that was so intense and I feel that. It was just like, oh my God, really? Okay, well, it just left me kind of sad, and I'm assuming that could have been their intent. However, I did some research and found out there are actually 2 endings. They pulled a Clue. If you've ever seen the movie Clue, that film had 3 endings in theaters. and you saw a different ending depending on what theater you went to. I looked up the other ending, and don't worry, I won't get into it, but I definitely got the worst ending, for sure, without a doubt. The other ending's much better, and I wish I had seen that one. But I had already kind of checked out of the film by then, and if I had seen the better ending, I'm not sure it really would have had much of an impact on me otherwise. If you enjoyed the first film, there's something to like here, but I don't know. As soon as the plot unfolded, I just kind of couldn't really get into it anymore. I'm going to give Unfriended Dark Web a C. I'm impressed with the amount of ingenuity it takes to tell a story from this POV, but I thought the first one was considerably better. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.